Hello everyone and welcome to this new video. Today I will introduce you a few things before going further with our bolt gun. We're going to talk about topology. Topology is a general term for all edges of a model, and globally topology represent how objects are divided into different faces. And as you will see in next video, it's often necessary to change topology in order to make edges fit what we want to model, mostly when we want to add detail on a mesh. So in this video, we're going to discover how to quickly select several edges with loops or rings, and also how to remove edges from topology. Exceptionally, I preferred record a little technical introduction, rather than explain these conceptual things while we are working on a model. So let's start by looking at something we call edge loops. If I extrude one of the face of this cube, I create 4 new edges here. Let's take a look at them. The particularity of these 4 edges is that each of their vertices belongs to 4 other edges. For example, this vertex is connected to 1, 2, 3, and 4 other vertices, and this one is also connected to 4 vertices. In other words, each vertices of these edges are where 4 edges meets together. And when such a sequence of segments are connected together forming a line, we say that they belong to a loop or that they form a loop together. To compare, these 2 edges are not belonging to the same loop, because here, this vertex in the corner is only connected to 3 edges. So why am I telling you about loops? Loops are very convenient because they can be selected very quickly with Alt key. If I hold the Alt key and click on an edge belonging to a loop, I'll select the whole loop with only one click. Let's do it again using transparency mode so you could see better. So with the Alt key pressed, I select an edge, and the whole loop the edge belong is now selected. And once we have selected a loop, we can simply modify it according to our needs, move it, enlarge it, or anything else. To show you the difference, let's click on this edge with Alt key, and this time we can see that the loop is enclosed. What happened? Here this vertex is connected to 4 other vertices, so Blender has selected the next edge. But there, this vertex is only connected to 3 edges, so we say that this vertex broke the loop. So Blender stopped to select edge from this vertex. On the other hand, if I create a new edge from this vertex, with the knife tool for example, whose shortcut is the K key, if I add an edge here, the vertex now belongs to 4 edges, and therefore if I select this edge's loop with the Alt key, the loop is now extended through the vertex. I hope all that makes sense. By the way, if we can select loops, we can also create loops. You may remember that we used the loop cut and slide tool in previous tutorials. The shortcut is Ctrl-R, and if we use it, we can see that this tool creates edges that all belong to a loop. So here we are working on an object that has very few faces, so the benefit of selecting a loop in a single click is not obvious. Indeed, it's fast enough to select the 4 edges like that, or even using the select box is efficient. But if I add a lot of faces with several extrusions there, selecting a whole loop is much faster rather than selecting each edge one by one. Let's go further now. If there are edge loop, it means there is also vertices loops. For example, here we have a vertices loop, and by using the same Alt key shortcut, we can select a whole vertices loop in a single click. The little difference is, if we look at this vertex for example, we can see that it belongs to 2 different loops. Indeed, it belongs to this one, which is horizontal, and to this one, which is vertical. So, if I hold Alt and click on it, Blender won't know which loop to select. So, the trick is to position the cursor, not on the vertex itself, but on the edge which belong to the loop I want to select. For example, if I want to select the horizontal loop, well, I hold Alt, I position the cursor on the horizontal edge, and Blender will select the horizontal loop. If I position my cursor on the vertical edge, the vertical loop will be selected. And there is also a trick to select a face loop. There, to be able to choose which loop I want to select from this face. So either this one or that one, we must position the cursor in a certain direction according to the center of the face. So, if I position the cursor a little higher or lower than the center of the face, with the Alt key held down I select the vertical loop. And if I position the cursor a little bit to the left or to the right of the center of the face, I select the horizontal loop. So, that's what you need to know about loops for now. We can also select so-called edge rings, i.e. a series of transverse edges with two loops. So here, edges ring are all the transverse segments to this loop here and to this loop there. The shortcut is Alt plus Control. And if you hold down these keys while clicking on one of these edges, Blender will select all the ring. It can be convenient as well. So, to conclude about loops and rings, let's talk about the famous 3D modeling rule that you may probably have heard. Always work with quad face. This is simply because a quad pattern is actually nothing but a network of loops and rings that make modeling much easier than using triangles. That's also why all polygon editing software, like Blender, are displaying quad face as a single face, even if for the computer a quad face is simply not possible, because a 3D face can be nothing but a triangle from a mathematical point of view. So, the software is cheating math for us by allowing us to work with square faces, which are actually two triangles merged. Okay, let's now talk about dissolving our topology. When it comes to add details to a 3D model, we will have to add vertices, edges, and faces to our objects. But to draw a nice topology, it's also very important to know when to remove some, and for that we can dissolve edges, vertices, or faces. So, for example, let's select this edge and say we want to delete it. So I use the Delete key or the X key, which display the Delete menu. If I choose to delete the edge, what is happening? Not only the edge has been removed, but also the two faces the edge was belonging to. And as a result, we now have a hole in our topology. So now let's undo what we did, and this time we will dissolve the edge. The segment disappears, but the faces are not deleted. So, we no longer have two faces, but only one n-gon with 6 vertices. We can also dissolve vertices. So, I undo again what we did. I select that vertex, press the X key, and dissolve the vertex. Here's what it gives us. This time all edges which the vertex was belonging to have been dissolved, and so the 4 faces which the edges were belonging have been merged into an 8 vertices n-gon. Here I'm showing you how to dissolve without any specific purpose. It's just to show you the tool, but we could imagine that we wanted to insert a gem or a diamond in our topology. So, to insert face with a diamond shape within a quad topology, we first need to change the topology. And for that we should have dissolved some edges, as we just did. This is allowing us then to draw a diamond with the knife tool. And now we can simply extrude the face to add the diamond shape detail. If we had wanted to extrude a circular shape, we would have had to draw a circle in our topology. This is the classic method. Now let's take a look at our loops. Here we can see that by modifying the topology, I broke this loop. The loop we had there no longer exists. Indeed, if I click on this edge holding Alt key, the loop stops there, simply because now this vertex belongs to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 edges, and this is breaking the loop. So, the correct method would be adding more edges to turn these triangles into quads. But this topology allows me to show you one last thing, a selection tool called Shorted Path. To show you this tool, I'm going to dissolve these edges, and we're going to add more edge loop here using Loop Cut and Slide tool. Before explaining you why it's interesting to use this tool, first I'm going to show you how it's work. Select an edge, hold down the Control key, select another edge, and Blender will select several other edges between starting and ending edge by following the shortest path, or in other words, by selecting as few as possible edges to connect the input edge and the output edge. And this is very useful because this is allowing us to select several edges like if it was a loop, but without needing these edges to belong to a loop. For example, we can select all these edges here, passing by the top of the diamond even if edges are not belonging to a single loop. So, I select this edge, I hold the Control key, and I select this other edge, and here you go. Another interesting example, let's say we want to select all the outer edges of the top of the object. I can't do it in one go with the Select Loop tool, because these edges belong to several different loops. We could have selected the different loops one by one, using the Shift key while holding Alt, but let's use the Shorted Path tool. So first I select this edge, I hold down Control key, then I select other edges, step by step. In a way, the shortest path will always be through the outer edges. And then, let's say we selected these edges for a purpose, like to bevel them, or anything else. And it also works with faces. So, if I select this face, then I hold Control key and select another face, Blender allows us to quickly select several faces following the shorted path along the topology. So, there I did something a little weird, but a common trick is to draw a kind of snail. I start by selecting this side, and I complete the selection by drawing a spiral. And it's also working with vertices. You will see, this tool is very convenient for a lot of situations. So here it is. I wanted to show you all this because in the next videos we will edit some topology to model objects. And while doing this, I'm going to use these tools very often. And when I use Select Loop or Shorted Path tool, I won't mention it each time. So, it's better to get used to these tools. I advise you to practice a little with simple objects. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching it. I'll see you very soon in next videos, where we're going to apply all this to finish modeling our bolt gun.